This is my seat, Pops.
That is my seat, Pops. 6 words barked across a crowded Coronado bar by the biggest man in the room. 6'4", 240 pounds of brand new Navy SEAL, trident pinned to his chest, less than a week. The old man on the corner stool didn't even turn around. He just sat there, 80 years old, hands folded around a glass of beer, with a second glass sitting untouched beside it. And when he finally stood up, the whole bar went silent because of what a retired Master Chief said next, and because of who that untouched beer was for. If you believe age doesn't erase what a man earned, type steady in the comments right now, because this old sailor was about to teach a room full of warriors what that word really means. The bar was called the Anchor Line, 3 blocks off Orange Avenue in Coronado, California, close enough to the amphibious base that on a Friday night, the place filled up with young men who had just survived the hardest training in the American military. Frank Delaney had been coming there longer than most of them had been alive. Every Friday at 7 o'clock, he took the corner stool by the window, the one with a clean line of sight to the door and the water beyond it, and he ordered 2 beers. He drank one, slowly, over the course of an hour. The other one he never touched. The bartenders learned not to ask. The regulars learned not to sit there. Frank was 80 now, thin in the shoulders, wearing a faded canvas jacket and a ball cap with no insignia on it at all. No unit pride, no veteran patches, nothing. Just a plain grey cap over white hair and hands that shook slightly when he lifted the glass, and eyes that still moved across a room the way most people's never learned to. He lived alone in a small apartment in Imperial Beach. He'd been a widower for 11 years. If you asked him what he did before he retired, he'd tell you he worked on boats, which was true, in the way that the ocean is damp. That particular Friday, the Anchor Line was louder than usual. Bud/S-Class 372 had just finished SEAL qualification training, and a dozen of the newest frogmen in the United States Navy had taken over the back half of the bar, celebrating the way young men celebrate when they've spent 18 months being told they aren't good enough and have finally been told they are. And the loudest of them, the biggest of them, the one the others already orbited around, was a petty officer named Tyler Boone. Tyler was 32, older than most of his class, a former college linebacker who had crushed every evolution they'd thrown at him. He was proud, and he was riding a wave of adrenaline and cheap beer, and when he scanned the bar for a place to plant his class flag, his eyes landed on the corner stool by the window, the best seat in the house, occupied by an old man in a grey cap, nursing one beer with another going flat beside it, taking up 2 spaces at the busiest hour of the busiest night. Tyler crossed the room. "That is my seat, Pops," he said, loud enough for his classmates to hear, grinning back at them. "Team guys sit by the window. Tradition." Frank didn't turn around. He watched the younger man's reflection in the dark glass instead, the way he'd once watched tree lines. "I'll be gone by 8, Frank said quietly. Tyler laughed, not cruelly, but carelessly, the laugh of a man who has never once in his life been the smallest or weakest person in a room. "It's 7:15, old-timer, and you've got a whole empty stool next to you for a beer nobody's drinking. Come on, be a patriot. Make room for the guys who actually wear the uniform." A couple of his classmates laughed. A couple didn't. The bartender, a woman named Dana, who had worked the Anchor Line for 9 years, went very still and reached under the bar, not for anything dangerous, but for her phone. Frank turned on the stool then, slowly, and looked up at Tyler Boone. And something in the old man's face made the young SEAL's grin flicker for just a second. "I'll move down one," Frank said, "but the second glass stays where it is." Tyler leaned in, palms on the bar, filling the whole corner with his shoulders. "See, that's the thing, Pops. I don't want the glass. I want the seat. My seat. My bar. My town. You can drink your 2 little beers at a table like everybody's grandpa." The bar had gone quieter around them, the way water goes quiet before it breaks. Frank looked at the untouched glass for a long moment. Then he looked back up, and when he spoke, his voice didn't shake at all. "Son," he said, I've been sitting on this stool every Friday since before your father was born, and I'll be sitting on it every Friday until they carry me out. Now you can stand there and puff up all you want, but you should know something about this seat before you take it." Tyler straightened up, 6'4" of trident and testosterone, and spread his arms to the room like a showman. "Oh, this ought to be good," he announced. "Tell me, Pops. Tell me about the seat." And that was the exact moment the door of the anchor line opened, and a man in his 60s walked in wearing a navy ball cap that did have insignia on it, the anchor, trident and stars of a Force Master Chief of Naval Special Warfare, and every single new SEAL in that bar, including Tyler Boone, snapped their mouths shut so fast you could hear it. Retired Force Master Chief Raymond Ortega had spent 32 years in the teams. His photograph hung in the schoolhouse these young men had just graduated from. He had personally addressed Class 372 at their Trident ceremony 6 days earlier, and he stopped just inside the doorway, took one look at the corner, at the giant young petty officer looming over the thin old man on the stool, and his face went dark in a way that made grown warriors study their shoes. "Boone," Ortega said. It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. "Master Chief," Tyler managed. I heard what you were just," Ortega said, crossing the room. Half this bar heard it. He stopped beside the corner stool, and then Master Chief Raymond Ortega, 32 years in naval special warfare, a man who had commanded the respect of admirals, came to attention and said, "Good evening, Chief Delaney. Is this seat giving you trouble?" You could have heard a coaster drop. Tyler's classmates were frozen mid-drink. Dana, the bartender, had her hand over her mouth, and Tyler Boone looked from the Master Chief to the old man and back, and said the only thing his brain could produce. "Chief Delaney?" Ortega turned to face the young SEALs, and when he spoke to all of them, but his eyes never left Tyler. "Class 372, he said. "Since the instructors clearly ran out of time, allow me to finish your education. This man is Chief Petty Officer Frank Delaney, United States Navy, retired. Underwater Demolition Team 12, 1966. SEAL Team 1, 1967 to 1972. 3 combat deployments to the Mekong Delta, Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart. And the Navy Cross, which, in case the schoolhouse failed you there too, is 1 step below the Medal of Honor." Frank was looking at the floor now, jaw tight, an old man wishing very much that he was invisible. "Master Chief, that's enough," he said softly. "It is not remotely enough," Ortega said. In February 1969, near Me To in the Mekong Delta, Chief Delaney's 7-man squad was ambushed at a canal crossing. 3 men were hit in the first 30 seconds. Chief Delaney crossed 40 meters of open paddy under machine gun fire, twice, and carried 2 wounded teammates to the extraction boat on his back. He was shot doing it, and he did not stop. Every man who got on that boat that night went home to his family because of him. Tyler Boone's face had drained of colour, but not for the reason anyone in that bar assumed, because Tyler was doing math. February 1969. My toe. A canal crossing. An ambush. He knew that story. He had grown up on that story, told across a kitchen table in Ohio by a grandmother who kept a folded flag in a wooden case on the mantel. "Master Chief," Tyler said, and his voice came out strange and small for such a big man. The men he carried out. Was one of them... Did anyone not make it out that night? And now it was Frank Delaney who answered, still looking at the floor. "One," he said. "My swim buddy. Best man I ever knew. He took rounds covering our withdrawal so the boat could push off. I went back for him. I was too late." His name was Marcus Boone. We called him Mac. The silence in the anchor line was total. Tyler Boone, 6'4", 240 pounds, newest SEAL in the United States Navy, stood in the middle of that bar and began, very quietly, to cry. "My grandfather," he whispered. "Marcus Boone was my grandfather." Frank's head came up slowly, And for the first time that night, the old man's composure cracked, his eyes going glassy as he searched the young giant's face and found it there, the jaw, the brow, the sheer size of him. Mac was 6'4" too, Frank said, barely above a whisper. Biggest man in the platoon. We used to joke the VC could see him from Hanoi. He stood up then, off the corner stool, 80 years old and steady as a pier piling, and everyone in that bar froze, because they finally understood what they were watching. Frank Delaney picked up the untouched glass of beer and held it out to Tyler Boone. Every Friday for 57 years, Frank said, I've ordered two, one for me, one for Mac. This was our stool, son, right here. Last night before our third deployment, February 1969, we sat in this corner and he showed me a picture of your grandmother holding your daddy, 6 months old. He made me promise that if anything happened, I'd look after them. If you've ever kept a promise that cost you everything, type honor in the comments right now, because what came out next broke every man in that room. Tyler took the glass with both hands like it was made of something holier than glass, and then his brow furrowed because another memory was surfacing, another kitchen table story. The checks, he said. Grandma used to talk about the checks. Every month, for years, until my dad finished college. No name on them, just a note that said, from a friend of Mac's. She tried everything to find out who it was. Frank Delaney said nothing at all, which said everything, and Master Chief Ortega quietly confirmed it with 4 words. Who do you think, son? Tyler Boone put the beer down on the bar with shaking hands, and then the newest, largest seal in Coronado did the only thing his heart would allow. He came to attention in the middle of that crowded bar and rendered a slow, perfect salute to the thin old man in the faded canvas jacket. And one by one, every member of Class 372 rose from their tables and did the same. 12 tridents, brand new and shining, saluting a man whose own trident had been earned when their fathers were in diapers. Frank returned it the old way, unhurried, and then he did something no one expected. He pulled out the corner stool, his stool, and offered it to Tyler. Sit down, son, he said. You too, Master Chief. It's Friday night, and for the first time in 57 years, I get to drink with a Boone again. What happened over the next 3 hours became a story the Anchor Line still tells. Frank Delaney talked, really talked, the way he hadn't in decades, about Mac's terrible singing voice, about the prank with the commanding officer's jeep in Da Nang, about how Mac carried that photograph in a plastic bag against his chest through every patrol. Tyler called his father in Ohio at 10 o'clock California time, and a 58-year-old man who had grown up without a dad got to hear the voice of the last person who ever spoke to him. There wasn't a dry eye within 20 feet of that phone. Tyler tried twice to apologize for how the night began. Both times Frank waved it off. You didn't know, Frank said. That was the whole point. Men like your grandfather didn't do it to be known. But Tyler Boone made sure it was known. Within a month, a small brass plaque appeared on the wall above the corner stool of the Anchor Line, paid for by Class 372, engraved with 2 names, Delaney and Boone, SEAL Team 1, and 5 words beneath them. This seat is never empty. Dana the bartender says that to this day, no one sits there on Friday nights without asking. And most Fridays they don't have to, because Frank still comes in at 7. Only now he rarely drinks alone. Tyler visits every week he isn't deployed. He calls Frank on Sundays. Last spring, when Tyler got married, an 80-year-old retired chief in a rented tuxedo sat in the front row, in the seat reserved for family, because that's exactly what he was. And the second beer still gets ordered, every single Friday. But now there are 3 glasses on the bar, and 2 of them get raised to the one that doesn't. Frank Delaney spent 57 years keeping a promise in silence, asking for nothing, wearing a plain grey cap so no one would ever ask. It took one careless sentence from a young man too big to look down and too good, in the end, not to kneel, for the world to finally see him. So the next time you see an old man taking up space at the end of a bar, guarding a drink no one touches, remember Frank. Remember that the quietest person in the room may have carried more than you will ever be asked to lift. Respect isn't something age takes away, it's something time reveals. If this story moved you, subscribe to the channel right now, because every week we bring you the stories of the heroes sitting quietly beside us, the ones who never asked to be seen. They kept their promises. The least we can do is remember them.